afternoon, everybody. Let me first introduce myself. My name is Mandla Nkomfe from Future South Africa, Amat Kathrada Foundation, etc. Now, we are gathered here, like we have said in our press statement, that we believe that the first step towards ending state capture and reclaiming our future is the removal of President Jacob Zuma. And that is why we are converged here today, so that we communicate our message to members of parliament in Cape Town this afternoon. We said that we demand that our MPs vote Zuma out of power today during the motion of no confidence. And we are also saying that no matter the outcomes, the people must send a strong message to Parliament that the capture of our state will not be tolerated. Ordinary South Africans must reclaim their future. And that is what we are doing here in Johannesburg today. It's happening in Pretoria, in Cape Town, in Durban, and in many other centers of our country. Now, I do want to acknowledge patrons of Future South Africa. And because there are chairs here, I'm going to call quite a lot of people to come and sit up here. Can I call Mr. Bonang Mohale, not to speak so far, but just to sit around here. Bonang is the CEO of Business Leadership South Africa, as well as the patron of Future South Africa. Can I call on Kes Kuvadia, who is also a press here? Thank you very much, Kes. I saw Prema Naidu. Can you come up, Prema? Where is Prema? Did you see him? What happened? Oh, there's Prema. Thank you, Prema. I also want to just call on stage to be up here. I think it's Julius Kleinhans from Outer. Thank you. To call Josh Lachman from Africa Rising. David Lewis, Corruption Watch. Thank you. And Sharon Gambaran from Lawyers for Human Rights. And Lucanio Tabula from Batupili. Thank you. Do I have Mr. Nair from Greater Mayfair? He's here. Thank you. Frank Numalo from Fedusa. Is Moleko here? If he's not here, can I call on Steve Faulkner? He's here. Oh, okay. Thank you very much. I'm going to use my own chair's prerogative here, because I tried by other means, but it didn't help. Can I call Mr. Temba Maseko up here? Yes. You can come this way. Thank you very much, Temba. Okay, we're not going to waste much time. I'm going to allow speakers to say their say in 6 minutes. We don't have enough time. I'm going to start with Julius Kleinhans from Outer.
Thank you, everyone. Always wanted to do this. Amandla! Amandla! Lovely. Last year we've seen water issues in the country, and we've started seeing civil society take hands and take water throughout the whole country to each other. We've seen in May civil society standing up, and yet again we've seen compatriots united and a prosperous country, and there was hope. And today marks the day where we're at the crossroads of the future of this nation. Now I just want to read something here. You know, we've seen a once proud nation that had a great future prepared by Nelson Mandela, and other great leaders went before him. And we stand here today at the lowest point of prosperity, and that is 24 years into a new democracy. It is completely unacceptable. You know, we live in such dire situations, and we shouldn't have unemployment. We shouldn't have health issues. We shouldn't have education that's deteriorating and the future of our children's prosperity being taken down with it. We shouldn't look over our shoulders wherever we go because of security risks. And we find ourselves, and we live in these conditions today, because of one man. One man, and that man's name is Jacob Zuma. Jacob Zuma has taken this country from a dream that everyone wanted to unite and live as Jacob's. And we have seen people like that, and they have stood up for one man and protecting one man. And it's put us in these dire situations today, which is really sad, and especially if people support this man. We've seen state capture and all the evidence against him coming out, and yet no action has been taken. So imagine this, a country where MPs started serving the people again. A country where we can live Mandela's dreams. Madiba's dreams must be lived out for future generations to enjoy. Imagine if you look back into the apartheid era when I was still a very young man, there was giants in apartheid that was broken down and defeated by civil society that was organized and mobilized to take them down. And I see civil society today rising again, mobilizing. It doesn't matter what happens today, whether Zuma is voted out or not. It is important for civil society to start standing up, and a bigger movement of everyone, all civil society organizations, credible ones, to take hands to ensure that this never happens again. I want to just emphasize what one of our colleagues said earlier again. And imagine a country where 60 billion rand, where corruption is lost every year, could be used to help make it a better place with new health, or better health and education and security things, where the energy of individuals aren't focused on one man, but actually where organizations can help build this nation again. And I just want to conclude this by saying Zuma must go, and we ask MPs today to vote for the people of South Africa and to vote for the future of our countries. Hamba Zuma, hamba! Thank you.
Amandla. Thank you very much, Julius. Now, can I call on Mr. Lechman from Africa Rising? He's not here. Okay. Ndade Mohale, it's your turn. Bonang Mohale is the leadership South Africa.
Amandla! Amandla! Ha ke ise tlhompho ho bohle bao e ba tshwanetseng, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. I'm here representing business because I am business. Because business today understands that if it had transformed in the opportunity that we're given in the last 23 years, maybe, just maybe, would not be in the mess that we are in today. Business realizes that if it had seized the opportunity so that when we sit together in one boardroom, that the people who are CEOs of these businesses should be broadly reflective of the demographics. Maybe, just maybe, this will be a different course and a different trajectory. So business launches a new Business Leadership South Africa on the 23rd of August this year in Alexander, where we reiterate our commitment to this country and its people, where we will be emphasizing the 3 pillars that will drive business moving forward. The first being this notion of an inclusive economic growth and transformation. The second being the protection of our key institutions, especially our Constitution, because what stands between us and anarchy today is the Constitution. Thirdly, to position business as a national asset, because it is business that needs to internalize, to demonstrate through deeds, not just words, that transformation is indeed possible in our country in this context when so many of us dare to hope that joy and peace will prevail. It is business that needs to demonstrate in deeds, not just in beautiful English, that we care deeply about our jobs, and it is our job to pay decent wages. Because if our people cannot afford the goods and services that we produce, then we have a problem. It is business that must work very hard to close the gap between what the CEO earns and somebody who works in our janitorial services, by improving the quality of lives of the majority of our people and to implement urgently the national minimum wage. So as business, we are very emboldened, energized by the fact that I stand here this afternoon to thank Umamu Baleka Mbete for having acted in the manner that she did. For putting South Africa first, for acting in the best interest of South Africa Incorporated, for thinking of a broader Team South Africa, not the narrow interests of the African National Congress. But the people that we really need to think seriously about and express our gratitude to is the team of amazing, wonderful, good quality people led by Chief Justice Mogoeng in the thoughtfulness in the manner in which they crafted the apex court decision without overreach, leaving no room to maneuver, but to do absolutely the right thing. So today we implore our members of parliament, all 400 of them, to reflect deeply, to dig deep into their souls, and remember the promise that is contained in the preamble of our Constitution when it said, "We the people," not the African National Congress. United in our diversity, guaranteeing, not promising, a number of freedoms. The freedom of expression, the freedom of association, but most importantly, the freedom from poverty. That as they reflect deeply, to accept that they've squandered the opportunity that we have been given by Rolihlahla Nelson Mandela not once but 7 previous occasions, when they could have self-corrected and they did not. That how much more does one need to mess up before there are consequences? How much more do they have to steal before the people of this country say not in our name? How much more do we have to get to the trenches, the bottom of the barrel? Our economy has reached the worst trajectory than that anticipated as the worst case scenario in the National Development Plan. Our society is fractured and more racist because of the type of leadership that is pretending to be leading us. That this organization, the ANC, when you talk to the people about the ANC, they ask you which ANC, because there are so many of them. That even the Youth League is now fractured. That which took us 20 years to put together in COSATU was just broken by one man. That even business of Rolihlahla Nelson Mandela's edict that we should form BUSA has now been divided. That all as South Africans, as we reflect, we also say this much and no further. So as I conclude, I think today will go down in the annals of history, when our history is written as one more brick that we have put, one brick at a time, towards restoring our constitutionality. That irrespective of the outcome, we'll look back at today and say today was the beginning of doing absolutely the right thing. That today, as business, of course we have made plans for today. Of course we have made plans for December. Of course we have made plans for 2019. Irrespective of that outcome, we know that these too will pass, because business outlives most regimes, business outlives most governments, and all of us are united in one thing and one thing only, that we want to leave this South Africa in a substantially better condition than we inherited it. So today, we look at ourselves and say, we know it's difficult to speak of the sea to a frog that has never left his pond. Because how then to explain people who are leading us, who don't even understand what deficit is, that when the rent depreciates, you can't just pick it up. That we demand a leadership that will lead our people much better on the basis of full commitment, on the basis of full understanding. Because this that we have today is not putting our best foot forward. And if we want to be internationally competitive, there's many amongst us that are indeed absolutely from the black pool of excellence, from what this continent has given, not the ones that have been shoved down our throat, that have become an embarrassment not only to themselves, but also to the peoples of this country. Have a wonderful afternoon. Amandla.
Thank you very much, Bonang. Can I take this opportunity to call on stage? I didn't caucus that with her, and that's a daughter of Bram Fischer, the late stalwart of the ANC and the Communist Party. And that is Mrs. Elsie Wilson. Thank you very much. Can I call on stage, David Lewis from Corruption Watch?
Thank you, Mandla. You know, comrades, in 1994, we made a terrible mistake. And the mistake that we made was not to vote for the ANC. I'm quite sure that everybody here who was eligible to vote then voted for the ANC. And I'm pretty sure that those of you who weren't eligible to vote, had you been there and been eligible in 1994, you too would have voted for the ANC. There was no question about it, that it was the best, not only was it the best option available, but that it was an option that we wanted to have. It was a leadership that we respected. It was an organization whose policies we respected. We respected the role that they had played in getting us to where we got to. So it wasn't a mistake to vote for them. The mistake that we made was thinking because we had gotten the party that we wanted, that we could afford to relax our vigilance. And so many of us who were then activists in the union movement or in civil society, some of us went to government to do good, others went into business to do well, and others went home and waited for the goodies to start to flow from Pretoria. And this is why we're in the situation that we're in today. Because having gotten the government that we wanted, we landed up through our own error in getting the government that we deserved. And this is what we're stuck with today. So today is a very important day. There's no question about it. It's difficult to know what's going to come out of today. It's easy to know that whatever comes out of today, whether Zuma is there tomorrow or is not there tomorrow, he is going to be in a very weakened position. You can see from the panic that the ANC leadership are in, that they know that they can't trust the people sitting behind them. And in politics, the heaviest blows always come from the people sitting behind you rather than the people sitting in front of you. And you know that they can't, you can see that they can't trust their own members, their own fellow leaders to support them. You've heard the leadership of the ANC. You've heard the leadership. Never mind. You've heard the leadership of the ANC call on the parliamentary caucus to vote against the motion of no confidence in order to protect the ANC. Misguided as that may be, I've still yet to hear one leader of the ANC vote against the motion because we want Zuma to stay. Not one has said that. They have a misguided notion that if they protect Zuma now, it will be better for the ANC going forward. In fact, I think they're making a disastrous mistake. But the point is that whatever happens today, whether Zuma goes, whether Zuma stays, tomorrow we have to be back at the barricades, and we have to stay there. Because if we want to consolidate what happens today, we can't make the mistake that we made in 1994 by relaxing our vigilance. And that goes for everything that we want. If we want decent public education, demand it. If we want decent public health, demand it. If we want decent public transport, demand it. If we want a government that tackles poverty, inequality, racism, demand it. Because a government is only as good as its citizens are demanding. And its citizens relax, no matter how good the government is that you elected. The citizens react, the government will turn on you. And that's exactly the position that we're in today. So I see today as a very important day, but I still see it as only one day in a process. And it's a process that never ends. People always say to me about Corruption Watch that you'll know you have done your job when you can afford to close your doors. And I want to say in return, we can never afford to close our doors. And those of you who are demanding decent public health can never afford to close your doors. Those who are demanding decent public education, you can never afford to close your doors. Because the minute you do, the temptation to loot what is really yours will raise its head again. So my message to you is, let's see what happens today. Hopefully we'll celebrate the outcome that we want. We might not, but whatever the outcome is, don't relax again and make the same mistake that we made in 1994. Amandla.
Thank you very much, Dave. Can I also recognize the presence of Comrade Isu Chiba, who is a board member of the Ahmad Kathrada Foundation, as well as the former Robben Islander, and a veteran and a stalwart of our movement. There are organizations that I must just mention that are here: Save South Africa, Johannesburg Against Injustice, COMSA, Banking Association of South Africa, Keep Left, Womandla, Skukumani Bafazi, Section 27, that is the NGO. And also acknowledge the presence of Professor Adam Habib, the Vice Chancellor of the University of Witwatersrand. Can I call on stage to talk Sharon from Lawyers for Human Rights?
Amandla! Panzi Zuma, Panzi! Okay, comrades, friends, I want to start by thanking you for coming to this event today. We were mobilizing, we wanted thousands to fill up this hall. And I think we have to start from there, that as David said, our struggle is not over. And today we are taking a stand on an important day, but we've got a long struggle ahead of us. And I want to tell you a bit about the different organizations that have organized leading up to what has happened today, leading up to the fact that Baleka announced that we will have a secret ballot. And it's clear that there's mobilization taking place, and the ruling party is forced to listen. And that's what we need to do. We need to organize ourselves so that we have power to hold any party, any political party that's in government. We need to hold them to account. Now, we have Future South Africa, which is a united about 130 organizations that came together a few weeks ago, together with Section 27, Lawyers for Human Rights, many, many other individuals, the veterans, a large number of people, over 600 people, all pledging to fight for a future South Africa where we will struggle to ensure that social justice is something that we can win in our lifetime. Fighting social justice is fighting poverty, the injustice of poverty. Poverty is not a natural phenomenon, and that's what we want you as people living in this country to join us. We want us to take a pledge today that every one of you will go back to your community and mobilize everyone in your street, so that the next time we have an event like this, you bring not just you, not just your friend, but you bring 10, 20, 30 other people. And that's the only way that we're going to make this democracy work for us, and not just a democracy where we can have a president who has captured the state, used his power to steal from poor people. And I think that the importance of today is we gave the ANC a mandate when, as David said, the majority of poor black men and women voted for the ANC. We voted for the ANC because we wanted the ANC to take that mandate and change the face of this country from one where the minority of white people and Indian people and a tiny minority of people living in this country benefited from apartheid, and the majority, black people, were oppressed because of the color of their skin. There was incredible repression. We put a government in power, a political party in power, to change that. And instead, the leader of this party has, together with the Gupta looting machine and many, many others, began to steal the money from poor people, and instead of addressing serious issues around healthcare, around education, around poverty, we find that this money is being stolen and gone off to Dubai. So today is an important day, and we want to give a message to all the MPs who are going to be voting. We want to ask them, just take a moment and reflect and ask yourself, reflect on the letter that the late comrade Kathrada wrote, what he said in that letter, and what he appealed to you as, firstly, to the president to step down. He has not stepped down. What are you as MPs going to do to ensure that we remove this man? Ask yourself what Comrade Emma Mashandini would have done with her vote. Ask yourself what Comrade Chris Hani would have done with that vote. Ask yourself what Comrade Solomon Mahlangu would have done with that vote. People who sacrificed their lives for social justice, to eradicate poverty. That's what our struggle is about. And so we're asking you, when you're making your vote, where's your conscience? That's what the message of this event is today, to give a clear message that you vote with your conscience. And we're going to continue this struggle. We're going to continue this struggle to end a situation where poverty in this country, we are living in one of the most unequal societies in the world. And the face of that poverty is African women who are trampled, literally trampled, by ministers in parliament, and they remain in power. That's not the ANC that the poor, ordinary people voted for. Zuma has abandoned the struggle for equality. Zuma has abandoned the struggle to ensure that the majority of these people in this country are taken out of the impoverished conditions that they live under. And it is all for greed. And so we must say, this must not happen in our name. This must not happen under our watch. And we need to do everything in our power to ensure that our struggle is taken forward in unity. The organizations that have come together on a minimum platform. Let's not look at what divides us. Let's look at what unites us, so that our children, if they need to go to university, do not have to be protesting, but can get free education, quality education, that schools have textbooks, and that we can ensure that every woman in this country can walk without being afraid of being attacked and the inhumanity of being beaten or raped. So today we are saying that you have the power to remove Zuma and to ensure that this country, as has been said by other speakers, is what we fought for, that we can ensure that there's equality, and but importantly, and this is my last point, what we need to do going forward is, as David said, we need to rebuild community structures, our street committees. We need to ensure that the trade union movement is strong, that we join trade union movements so that the trade union movement is not a sweetheart union but can actually hold the state to account, can support our struggles to eradicate poverty in this country. And so my final point to you is that we are saying to the MPs, a yes vote is a vote for humanity, and it's for a vote for good over evil. So vote yes, no confidence in Jacob Zuma, and we will ensure that we will support you in struggling to get to quality of life for all who live in this country. And that's what your vote will depend on, whether we can take that struggle forward or not. We need to remove Jacob Zuma now. Thank you, comrades.
Amandla. Okay, so we'll have Lukhanyo Tabula from Batupili.
Amandla, comrades. It's amazing to stand in front of you and to speak as a youth. Mr. Lewis spoke earlier about the nostalgic time that we had in '94, and I was still in primary school at the time, and about how great and how hopeful our country was at the time, where there was an incredible amount of hope, optimism, and zest for life. And I'm coming today to speak as a youth on the plight of our youth at the moment. The state of capture has created an incredible distraction from issues that is affecting our youth at the moment, including nyaupe, tik, wonga, imigwinyo, ecstasy. We are sitting right now at an unprecedented situation of the fatherless generation and a situation of joblessness, inequality, and poverty. And our focus is on one man who is distracting our country from focusing on issues that are actually focused on enabling our people to develop and grow to the next level. Even a blind man can see that this particular man has been a great distraction and has enabled an incredible amount of rot to distract and to augment the resources of our state instead of focusing on developing our communities. In this fight, I think it's important for us to be able to remind the members and to remind ourselves of the importance of reigniting the hope and enabling ourselves to be able to reimagine our African dream again. We must recall in 2015 the fallist movements on the number of issues that were raised by the fallists, not just a function of a fees or fee-free education, but the whole function of decolonization and a function of being able to have a sense of purpose as black people within the country. And actually, rightfully speaking, as not just black people, but as South Africans. So it's very critical for us as the youth to be able to bring this to the members to say, you owe it to the country. You owe it to us to ensure that as you pledge allegiance to the flag, that you do the right thing and you ensure that you vote for a fall of Jacob Zuma. In summation, it's important also that we who are walking the streets and who are doing the work must never lose hope and must reignite it every day, whatever the outcomes of today is, and enable ourselves to be able to focus and understand the fact that in whatever spaces that we occupy, that we are given the responsibility and the power to be able to change the movement in the country, to be able to steer it in the right direction. We need to reignite and to reconstruct our communities. There is plenty of work that needs to be done in as far as the plight of the youth is concerned. Amandla.
Thank you very much, Lucanio. Without any waste of time, I'm going to call on Mr. Nair from Greater Mayfair.
Amanda, all power to the people. Comrades, I firstly want to acknowledge our elders in the crowd, Comrade Isulalu Chiba, Comrade Prema Naidu, and other elders. We honor you and want to thank you for your contributions to our struggle. I want to take this opportunity to thank the key role players, Save South Africa and the Ahmed Kathrada Foundation. I think, ladies and gentlemen, today is a momentous day, but I think 3 weeks ago when 131 civil society organizations met at the Rema Church, I think that was the beginning of what we hope as civil society would change the future of this country. I want to disagree with Dave and say in 1994 we made a mistake. We voted for the right party. The mistake we made as civil society is that we did not hold this party accountable. We relaxed as civil society and we decided to put our total trust in politicians, and sad to say today the politicians has let us down. The corruption that we had talked about today has not come about in the last year, guys. This is long before the Guptas. In the year 2000, when the arms deal, when we spent 80 billion plus rands on arms that was not needed. And since then, various scandals upon scandals, it's been going on. And we as civil society have sat back and let this happen. Let us remember and let us not make those same mistakes. What has been the consequences of this? It's said that in prior 1994, we had 13% of the population owning 87% of the wealth of this country. Come the year 2017, what's the situation? We have 20% of the population owning 80% of the wealth of this country. So in 23 years, we've only empowered 7% of our population, while the masses suffer. There is massive poverty out there. Our children are suffering. The problems of women abuse, youth, crime are not addressed by this government. And meanwhile, we have state capture, which just basically takes us away from the real issues facing our society. So yes, we need a change in leadership. But more important than the change in leadership is what happens after tomorrow. What happens when the next government comes to power? It could be anyone. It could be the ANC, the EFF, the DA. Do they just politicians as normal politicians go on and do what they normally do? Is rob people, lie to people. No, we as civil society have to become united, and I'm hoping this is the beginning of a united civil society forum, because if in 1994 we had a strong civil society that was the vanguard of our liberties, of our constitution, we would not be facing the problems we are facing today. We need to hold our leaders and our elected leaders and politicians accountable, from local government councillors all the way to members of parliament. There is corruption, there is lack of service delivery, and we do not hold our local leaders firstly accountable. I went to a meeting yesterday, I said, in my ward, and amazingly, the affluent people were invited to this meeting. And we raised the question is, what about the local indigenous black people who live in this ward? And the DA councillor tried to waylay the whole thing and says he didn't have time to notify them. But this is happening right under our noses. This is the kind of corruption, this is the kind of mismanagement of public leadership that we allow. So we should hold them accountable, not just at the top, but starting at the bottom. Because if we start there, we will definitely get it right at the top. So I want to finish off by saying, appealing to civil society, that let this be the beginning of a great formation of civil society organizations, that we come together, that we mobilize for the masses. Let us work towards a society that can be free of poverty, degradation, abuse, drugs. Drugs, ladies and gentlemen, is a problem that is finishing our societies. And yet this government has never ever addressed the issue. Statistics have proved that we have something between 3 to 5 million of our youth and of our people that are addicts. We work with them every day. And it is really a sick society and a sick situation we are facing. So let us commit ourselves that as of today, that we commit ourselves as civil society to work forward to a just and fair society. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Nell. I'm going to call back Mr. Jess Lechman from Africa Rising. Is he here? Yeah.
Afternoon, comrades, friends, South Africans, and others from the African continent. Africans Rising is a Pan-African movement that works throughout the continent. And I bring you solidarity messages from comrades in Kenya who are voting again today, comrades in Rwanda who voted last week and found themselves with the result of a vote that they did not expect. In Kenya today, people who are voting have a similar feeling about their choices and whether they will actually be manifested. And there are various other solidarity messages for South Africa from the continent. As Africans Rising, our interest in the process that we are undergoing in South Africa as South Africans, as citizens, is a personal one. The founding chair of Africans Rising, Kumi Naidoo, is in Cape Town today at the moment at the march and is going to be available later in the day as well to participate in the proceedings. So our message is simple, that as many others have already said, we sit here today, the few of us, because we are responsible for the situation that we find ourselves in. Whether it was through not bothering to vote or not bothering to call up the person that you elected to be your local representative, but we share the responsibility for the mess we find ourselves in. So to the few who are here today, thank you for coming out, because you've demonstrated the first step that's necessary to change anything. Getting rid of Jacob Zuma, is not going to solve our problems. You know, it doesn't change the fact that we have an education system which denies the poorest of people access to that education. It does not change the fact that in South Africa, the people who make the decisions about how we live, who goes to hospital, who doesn't, who gets into school and who doesn't, earn hundreds of times more than the people who those decisions are being made about. Your parliamentarians who are voting today take home 2 million South African rands a year. Adam Habib, you don't have to answer this, we know. But for the rest of you, how many of you earn 2 million rands a year? Can you put your hands up? Any 2 million a year more in this room? No. So this is the income of the people who are making the choices about your future and my future. So to leave these choices in their hands, people who have no need to take a taxi, people who have no need to walk, people who have no need to walk down a supermarket aisle and compare the price between Joko and Five Roses tea and buy the tea which is cheaper. We're talking about people who don't have to decide and make choices between whether their children eat or they walk, or they go to school or they walk. So if you want to do anything for the future, for the rest of this country and the rest of your life, it is to give it, like others have said, towards the cause of holding the people we elect accountable, because they will not do it if we do not do it. So as Sharon said, go back home, make the change in yourself, go and knock on your neighbor's door, even if you don't like their race or religion or gender or lifestyle, or if they're a fees must fall person, and say to them that this is why you are standing up today. This is why it matters to you, why you think it should matter to them. The only way we will ever win against this kind of corruption is if we all act individually in our small roles. Come 2019, we are going to be told, when the finance minister does his speech, which everyone waits so patiently for, much more than the state of the nation, we are going to be told the country is bankrupt and we're going to have IMF structural adjustments. By then, it's going to be way too late. Where we are now is in a country that is on the verge of bankruptcy from the corruption. So if this corruption was not there, Adam Habib wouldn't have such a hard time, going to work every day, because we would be able to have free, quality, decolonized education. We would be able to allow people to access hospitals, primary schools, secondary schools, various other public goods and services which were part of the promise of the Freedom Charter and why we voted ANC in 1994 and probably continue to do so since. And for the heckler, this is not an anti-ANC rally. This is just an anti-corruption issue. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thanks for those last words. We're going to focus on the labor movement now. I'm going to call on Frank Ngumalo from FEDUSA to come and address us.
Amandla. Awethu. Matimba. Yebo. Colleagues, thank you very much for the opportunity to speak here. I represent FEDUSA, which is the Federations of Unions of South Africa. It's one of the biggest labor federations in the country after COSATU. Now we've got a new competitor, a new kid on the block called SAFTU. They also claim to be the second biggest federation, so but that's another issue. Colleagues, I couldn't agree more with David Lewis when he said, we didn't make a mistake in 1994 when we voted for the African National Congress. Most of us here, including myself, we come from the Congress tradition. The African Congress for most of us was sacred. It could do no mistake. Maybe it was the aura of the old man of Nelson Mandela. So we had this honeymoon. We just relaxed. We left everything to them. We really didn't think they wouldn't do no wrong. Colleagues, most of my life, I just joined the unions recently about 3 years ago, but most of my life I've been a journalist by training. I can see here my colleagues from the SABC, because that's where I came from. And as a journalist, I was privileged to be near the main events that were taking place in our country. And really, what is happening today, I think most of you will agree with me, it's just unbelievable. It's so difficult to believe that it is happening. It's difficult to believe. If some of you, there's a document which was put together recently by a group of academics, including the Wits University, and I think there are 7 other universities, which is called Betrayal of a Promise. I think you should read that document. It's stunning, what is contained there. And I think one of the points that document raises, which I think the colleagues in the media have missed, is that they reduced Jacob Zuma to a caricature, something very funny, something very ridiculous. But the point I agree with them is that there's a serious, well-thought political project that is going on. And Zuma and his cronies are at the center of that political project. It's very serious. So we might think Zuma, maybe they think this is this rural, uneducated man. But what they have is actually a political project. And that document, Betrayal of a Promise, which is actually means betrayal of the promise of 1994, actually claims that there's been a silent coup, and I agree with them. There's been a silent coup by people we trusted, by people we thought were our parents. But colleagues, beyond whatever will happen today, I think there are also some mistakes we made. I'm referring to the fathers of our constitutions. I'm not a legal expert, my field is journalism, but I think in the Constitution, one of the mistakes that we made, I think we didn't envisage a situation where we would have a state president who's compromised. The state president is given the powers by the Constitution to appoint key officials of institutions of democracy. For example, he appoints the NPA. But this is a man who has got an interest in appointing the right people, right in brackets, at the NPA. And so in so many other key institutions of democracy or key institutions of the state. So colleagues, I think going forward, beyond whatever happens today, I think in the near future, we'll have to relook at our Constitution, the powers that we give to our president. And I also want to express my fear today on record, and that fear is that I fear that, some people might also be taking advantage of what is happening here, the politicians. What safeguard do we have that in the future we don't have another Jacob Zuma or another corrupt entity, which in charge of our state? So I think we'll need to think deeply about that, the constitutional safeguard going forward. That's all I would say, and thank you very much for the opportunity, and a happy Women's Day tomorrow in advance.
Thank you. Can I call Steve Faulkner from the South African Federation of Trade Unions?
Amandla. Pathetic. Amandla. It's a bit more like it. First of all, I think you should all be giving yourself a round of applause for pitching up this afternoon. Comrades, I'm not going to repeat what others have said. I've seen 3 people falling asleep already, and they will be fined on the way out. But I think it is worth reminding ourselves about who is most affected by corruption. And just remind ourselves about the terrible conditions that an increasing majority of our people are living in. I was absolutely delighted this morning to wake up to Rob Burns reading the traffic reports on SAFM, and for once, the invisible hundreds of thousands of our people who are without work, who are without decent facilities and service delivery, were starting to make their voice heard. Because Rob Burns this morning excelled himself by reading out no less than 16 incidents of where service delivery protests had stopped major routes into town. And I'd like to propose a vote of, if you like, a round of applause for all those poor people who can't be here today because they can't raise the funds to join us who made that protest. And comrades, I think that's the point, really. We can't just carry on pretending this is business as usual, that we do the usual things of having pickets on Parliament, that we do the usual things of gathering in ornate halls like this and complimenting ourselves for pitching up, which is obviously genuine, and we must continue to do that. But comrades, we've got to reach out to the millions of our people who, when you go to those communities, are completely frustrated in their isolation and their marginalisation. This morning I was speaking to a group of local residents in Germiston who wanted to know if the new federation, which is actually the second biggest federation if you read registration numbers, wanted to know how the new federation, because we've stated that we want to link with communities in struggle, how we can help them. And I was going there giving all sorts of political points and making analysis of the crisis of capitalism in South Africa and all of that. And then we had a discussion, And one old lady stood up and said, "You know what we really need?" I said, "What?" She said, "We need money so that we can buy a voucher for our cell phones so that we can make a link with the community next door." And comrades, I think that's where we must be, comrades. We've got involved in this campaign a whole number of people, and excuse the expression, but they can't sit down because their wallets are too big. You understand what I'm saying, comrades? We've got money in this campaign. We've got resources. And it's about time that we led by example. And if we want a government that redistributes wealth to the poor, then we've also, as campaigners, have got to redistribute wealth to the poor so that they can join us, so that they don't have to rely upon bloody Rob Burns to give them visibility in our society. We've got to find a way, comrades, of not just pleading for our communities to come and join us, but going to those communities and seeing what they need and what we can give so that they can regather themselves, rebuild their own confidence, and then join us in their own name and state their own demands, not us pretending that we're speaking on their behalf. And then a second thing which I want to thank Corruption Watch for drawing to our attention, and that's this. We can't talk, comrades, about the need for clean government, about the need for clean this or that, if within our own households we have got cleanliness problems. We've got to clean our own houses, comrades. And that means we've got to be super vigilant. If we start to see, even within our own institutions, even within our own coalitions, things which are in a way corrupt, we have to be brave enough to confront one another, comrades, and say, no, you can't do that. It's undermining all that we're standing for, because unless we do that, we are vulnerable, comrades. And the credibility that we might have with the masses that we're hoping to link in with and rebuild will be fatally usurped and fatally flawed. The last few points I just want to make, comrades, and they are the last few points, is that if we can concentrate over the next period in helping to rebuild civil society, and by civil society, with all due respect, I don't mean the bureaucracy of SAFTU, the South African Federation of Trade Unions. By civil society, I don't mean the Executive Board of Corruption Watch or Lawyers for Human Rights, wonderful people though they are. By civil society, we mean civilians, ordinary people. And if we can make that our priority over the next period, the dilemma of who we vote for in 2019 and the problem of how do you use the democratic dispensation that we've got might be put in a slightly different perspective. Some of us, frankly, comrades, some of us have lost hope with the ANC. We've lost hope. Even if you remove those who are obviously guilty, there have been many, many more who sat on their hands and remained quiet for decades, comrades. It doesn't matter. I'd like to see a workers' party. The position of our federation is that we are non-partisan. So I'm speaking in a personal capacity on that front. I know there are many, many comrades who agree with me that we need a workers' party. But even if we have a workers' party that is not kept accountable by the masses of our people will not be a workers' party, comrades. Any organisation that claims to represent the interests of our people has to be held accountable by those people. And I think that that's a key lesson that we must learn from the tragedy that we're now seeing unfolding of what can only be described as a mass crisis of representation. Every single meeting we go to at the moment, and we're going to thousands of meetings up and down the country, literally thousands, over the next year and of the last 6 months, everybody declares the same thing. Who is representing my interests? People are feeling isolated, marginalised, alone. And we've got to help them to see that by linking arms with their neighbours, by linking the unemployed with the employed, by gay people with straight people, etc., etc. If we link those arms, then we can build a genuine civil society that can keep all of our politicians, even those with wonderful revolutionary credentials, on the straight and narrow. The final point I'd like to make is this. We don't believe there's a quick fix to the crisis that we're facing in South Africa. That's why we've committed ourselves as a federation, and we hope our friends from FEDUSA and the other federations who seem to be in decline will stop their decline and join us. We're hoping that towards the end of the year we've set ourselves the target of organising a mass stay away, in other words, a general strike, because we believe that it's only with the power of workers, whether they're employed or unemployed, that only when we get hundreds of thousands of workers mobilised and prepared to lose a day's pay, to come out onto the streets and show what they want and demand and put their demands on the table for the type of society that we want, that will start to shake down this monolith that the Zuptas have assembled around themselves. And when we come to that time, comrades, in November and December, we want our friends from business who are in this coalition with us today not to retreat into their own class-interested enclaves. We want them to turn round to workers and say, you're having a strike on that day, we're not going to dock your pay because we think that what you're fighting for is bigger than all of us together. Amandla!
Amandla! Okay, to conclude, I'm going to call on the patron of Future South Africa, Mr. Kes Kuvadia, to come to the stage.
Amandla! Okay, competition amongst unions. Interesting, interesting. Bonang, who's bigger, your organization or mine? Okay, I concede. Folks, it's difficult to follow this lineup, but let me just say a few things. One, I am very happy that there are a couple of young people sitting here, because I shouldn't be standing here. I see a lot of old comrades on the stage and in the audience, and I want to emphasize the word old. And we should be actually sitting somewhere and having a nice glass of wine or scotch or playing with our grandchildren or whatever the case may be. We shouldn't be back here forming another UDF, which is Future South Africa. But we are here. We are here because of a whole lot of things that we and others have done wrong in the last 23 odd years. So let's look at today, and by God, South Africa has had many beginnings, but let's look at today as another new beginning. Okay, it's not the end. It's a great day and it's a great moment. The fact that we have finally respected the constitution of this country, the fact that the Speaker put the country first and declared that the vote will be a secret ballot, puts us in a good place. It's a good moment. But whether Jacob Zuma goes today or not, a lot of the things that speakers have spoken about will still be here tomorrow. And we should see today as the beginning of civil society and public efforts to build a South Africa that is non-racial, but non-racial in a way that recognizes that we cannot call ourselves economically free until the poorest of the poor say they are economically free. A non-racist society that says that we cannot treat our women and our children the way we've been treating them. a non-racial society that says that we need to recognize the right of our children to have decent education, a non-racial society that says that we all have the right to work and to earn an income, and a non-racial society that says that we all have the right to have a decent, comfortable life. So let today be the beginning of us building that society. And we can do it because South Africans, if nothing else, we are resilient. In 1994, we showed the world how we can actually move from one of the most oppressive systems in the history of the world to one that actually begins to build a democracy and begins to build a democracy. We've still got a lot of work to do. So I think that we should see today as the beginning, irrespective of what happens this afternoon. Because I think it's what Dave and a few others said. Irrespective of what happens this afternoon, irrespective of what happened in 2019 or in December 2018, we need to have a society that continues to hold those we elect accountable. And if we are going to do that, we can't make the mistake that Dave says we made in '94. Not the mistake, we didn't make a mistake in voting for the ANC. We made a mistake in saying that because we voted for the party that a lot of us grew up in, we can all relax and that everything will be fine. It doesn't work that way, and we've learned that. So let us move forward, let us support an organization like Future South Africa, and let us build this organization to begin to address the fundamental and systemic problems we have in our society and in our country. We can't allow our country to be rent asunder because of poverty, unemployment, inequality, and racism. And so we need to come together beyond today and say that we will not tolerate those sorts of ills in our society. And we will not tolerate the sort of leadership we've had in the last 10, 15 years in our society, and that we will, as South Africans, come together to actually hold our leaders to account. So I think it's great that we are here today. I think it's great that we have this broad coalition of forces under Future South Africa that can actually begin to remobilize society, not just against bad government, but to remobilize society to do the positive things we need to do to build the sort of South Africa we all fought for, a lot of people died for, and a lot of people went to jail for. So let's move forward from today. Let's see today as a beginning, and let's make sure that in 20 years' time, I don't have to come here in a wheelchair to say the same things I am saying today, okay? So thank you for being here. Thank you to all the people on the stage, and let's move forward from today. Thank you.
Amandla. No, thank you very much, Comrade Kes. Let us just remind ourselves once again what we said. We said that we must ensure that parliamentarians today hear the call of ordinary South Africans very clearly, and they must also put the interest of the country first. Parliamentarians as public representatives are duty-bound to vote Zuma out of office and steer the country away from the path of corruption, state capture, inequality, racial tensions, increasingly patriarchal values, and a deepening national crisis. And a lot of speakers have already said that the struggle goes beyond today, which is the 8th of August. And in that struggle, we must continue to build unity across sectors, coordinate action against state capture and corruption, unite with other organizations at local level, regional and national levels, so that we are able to reclaim our democracy and support campaigns to end poverty, inequality, unemployment, and gender-based violence. Support also the work of organizations that are challenging corruption and state capture in different courts, and engage with public representatives at different levels, local, provincial, in parliament, as well as ensure that Chapter 9 institutions do bring back integrity to our public institutions, and support public servants in particular and others who speak out against corruption and face victimization and harassment. And in this process, we should join a united people's struggle against state capture, so it doesn't end today. The future of South Africa depends on all this. Without any waste of time, I do want to just thank the organizers of this event today, and yourselves, participants who came here amidst intimidation and everything else, the media and everybody. These indeed are new beginnings for our country. There is life after today. So without any waste of time, let me thank all of you and hope that you will still catch the debate in Parliament from now at 2, and hope that parliamentarians, that is the members of Parliament, they've heard your prayers in ensuring that Zuma is not president anymore. Thank you very much. Amandla.